there is so much to be said about this episode, but I don't know if I want to be the one to say it.
Well, you have to, because we're on this podcast now.
Much like Icarus, your hubris has cursed you, and now you must speak for all time ever.
Exactly.
Hi, hello everyone, and welcome to Afterbite. It's a Vampire Diaries fan cast that's only 10 years too late. We're here, we're back! Hey gang! We didn't leave for too long, we promise.
How you doing?
How y'all doing today? This is a one-way street that we're just yelling into the void, but how are you doing today? Answer aloud to yourself. It's a little bit like, on Dora, when she's like, should we use the map?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you fucking should, Dora. That's why it's there. Ma'am, you should use the map. And that map is going to take you right to episode 311 of the Vampire Diaries, Our Town.
How do you feel about the title?
I don't know what it's referring to
Neither
quite.
do I. Neither do
it's
I.
It's a little weird, isn't it?
It just doesn't feel right.
It's like, a little weird.
Like, sure, it's like not it's not a title that has the word "the" in it, but at least those were,
which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, but at least those had something it was pointing to within the episode. This one is kind of like, all right, are you trying to say something about this episode and what it means for Mystic Falls? I didn't get that at all. The episode.
I don't know. Little weird.
Yeah.
The Netflix description for this episode is Elena, Bonnie, and Matt surprise Caroline with a small party for her 18th birthday, and Tyler refuses to go along with Klaus's latest demand. Oh.
What's
spicy Netflix description makes me interested and want to watch the episode.
Yeah, and it's pretty accurate.
Yeah. The first thing that we always put down when we're doing these notes, when we're checking our notes for these episodes, is the Netflix description, and I always use that to judge how good an episode's going to be. I have to pause, right, to write down the Netflix description, and if it's a bad Netflix description, I'm not excited for this episode. This one, though, this one's a spicy boy.
It's very intriguing.
This one is just a very spicy boy. So we start off in the Salvatore house, and we kind of cut back between the Salvatore house and Alaric's apartment.
Which I was kind of confused at first, because there were some noises I think they kept and carried over to the Salvatore house that made me think for a second that Elena was still in the Salvatore house, even though that wasn't true.
Yeah, it was a little confusing, but I did like the way that they cut this scene together, because you had Damon in the shower having a very good morning, and then you had Elena beating the shit out of a punching bag having a very bad morning. Which,
makes sense, when you think about it. She just had to deal with, Damon kissing her, and then she's, taking her frustration about that out on a beanbag chair. I think there's something to say about the juxtaposition between Damon having a good time and Elena just being like, I'm angry.
I'm having a very bad time.
Yeah. And Damon just in the shower being happy just didn't sit right with me personally.
It just doesn't sit right with my soul that he was happy. Stefan interrupts Damon's happy shower time to tell him to hurry up because they need to meet Bonnie at the witch house, and Stefan's a little suspicious as to why Damon's having a good morning, because Damon historically is a shitty boy who has bad mornings, apparently.
Exactly. It just doesn't feel right, and everyone could pick up on it.
Yeah. In Alaric's apartment, Alaric's trying to get to the root of why Elena is just kicking the shit out of this bag.
Just doing a great job.
She is doing a great job. Shout out to Nina Dobrev for her punching skills this episode, apparently.
We appreciate it.
I mean, shout out to Nina Dobrev for everything she does, obviously, but the punching and kicking?
Very good.
Good job. At the witch house, we cut over there this fine morning, and Bonnie's performing a spell trying to open the coffin. The spell totally fails because this coffin is, again, totally, unopenable.
I think something interesting I wanted to point out about her saying this spell, it just felt very off. which I think was like, I don't know if that was like an intentional choice, like acting wise, but I don't know. I feel like whenever Bonnie says a spell, most of the time there's like a little oomph behind it,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a little lack of that oomph
Do you think
here.
that's why the spell didn't work? Is because the witches knew she wasn't putting her oomph into it?
It kind of felt like that. Yeah. Cuz I could tell like while she was saying it that it wasn't going to work, you know? It was
Yeah.
a little foreshadowing.
The coffins suddenly disappear
Mhm.
because somebody else has entered the house, or just because they have disappeared. We don't really know.
I thought we were
Steph,
going to have to start a Bonnie kidnap counter.
I was really hoping we didn't, but actually we do soon enough, which is sad. I know, I'm sorry.
Can this
Sorry for
show
that bit of foreshadowing.
Can this show stop putting its woman through that? Can we
No,
stop
no,
traumatizing women? No?
it literally can't.
That's the whole premise of the show, just
Yeah.
traumatize women? Oh,
It's a
okay.
bunch of. Here's the premise of this show, it's a bunch of really traumatized men making traumatized women.
Mm, that's actually true. That's actually correct. Not, yep. Yeah.
I'm correct in this because it's always their trauma that makes somebody else have some new sort of trauma.
That is wild to think about. Oh my god, I kind of want to just go into depth about that. That says a lot. A lot. A lot needs to be unpacked. We're gonna pull a Vampire Diaries, okay? There's a lot to unpack with that statement, but we're just gonna
We're
leave
not
it
going to
there.
unpack any of it.
We're just gonna leave
We're
it there.
giving you this gift. You don't open it.
Don't
Don't
open
open it, please. I'm begging you. I know I've gift wrapped this very nicely. There is a little bow on top, but do not open this, please.
It's not worth it. It's not worth the
It's not worth
pain.
it.
It's not worth it.
I know you might think it's worth it to seem smart and cool about the Vampire Diaries,
No.
but it's the Vampire Diaries. Nobody seems smart or cool when they're talking about it.
Uh-uh.
And this is coming from the foremost experts on the Vampire Diaries,
Exactly.
us.
We go into depth. We analyze that shit. But sometimes,
You don't want to open this present.
mm-mm. Because then if we open this present, I think it will partially ruin the show for us. Let's all be real.
If we were to break it down to brass tacks like that, it would absolutely destroy my enjoyment of this.
So let's just not even touch it.
We're not going to touch it. Stefan and Damon approach the witch house from the outside. Damon stops them and is taking a listen in because something is wrong. Damon goes inside the house, sneaks down to the basement because Bonnie has also at this point realized that something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes face to face with Damon, who motions for her to be quiet. And then outside, Stefan comes face to face with a hybrid. Stefan and this hybrid have like a little staring contest
Mm-hmm.
until Damon pulls his heart out from his back. They're just staring at each other.
But also very cool move.
It is also a very cool move. So this is one of Klaus's hybrids, obviously, who had found the house and found, well, didn't even find the coffins though, because he just found the house because the witches were the ones protecting the coffins. So there's that. Klaus's hybrids are like fleas.
Mm-hmm.
They just show up everywhere that you don't want them to.
Mm-hmm.
They're just the most unfortunate little bugs.
I just keep wondering, how did he get there? Why was he there? Was he directed to be there, or was he just, just walking around, just checking things out?
Just like, don't like this here.
Doesn't feel right.
This house, bad vibes.
Something's
bad
been
vibes
off
from this witch house.
Something's been off in the universe, and they've been sensing it since Damon woke up this morning happy.
The whole universe's vibes have been whacked off because Damon Salvatore had a good morning.
Exactly. And it led this hybrid to the house.
At Mystic Falls High, Elena is decorating Caroline's locker because it's Caroline's birthday.
Yay! Yeah. I was so excited, but also I knew bad things were bound to happen.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I just love whenever a good thing happens to Caroline. Even
Um,
if it's just like a birthday,
yeah,
which is objectively just like congrats, you've made another trip around the sun. I'm
yeah.
still excited for her
Yeah,
for this.
exactly. Like I love Caroline so much. When anything remotely good happens for her, I get excited, but then I also get sad because I know shortly afterwards something bad's about to happen to this girl, and I'm not
Mhm.
gonna like it. I'm gonna get angry with the writers once again for putting my girl through this. It really does say something that every time that Caroline has like a major storyline in this show, bad things are bound to happen.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Bonnie comes up to help Elena with the decorating. Elena's like, "Hey Bonnie, why are you late this morning?" And Bonnie's late because she was doing some early morning coffin breaking, but she can't tell Elena that. So, Elena tells her that Elena tells Bonnie that Jeremy is now leaving town, and Bonnie wonders why Jeremy would leave like that. Elena reveals that she had Damon compel Jeremy. And this does not sit right with Bonnie Bennett.
Hmm.
And as it should. Bonnie takes a lot of very valid criticisms with what Elena did to Jeremy here this episode, and I'm like, yes, I am here with you, Bonnie.
I'm
I'm
so
always
glad.
here with you, but in this episode, yes.
I'm so glad that they didn't push it under the rug and finally decided to address it because it needed to be addressed.
Exactly. They needed to talk about it at some point, and even though ultimately that talking didn't do anything,
I think it's an important discussion to have. You know, like
exactly.
even if Jeremy still leaves, at least we've
Hmm.
had a discussion about how this is a bad thing, and we're not just like acting like it's a-okay because it's not.
Exactly. At least you can tell it gives Elena a little crisis of conscience.
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of talk about this later that we'll kind of go back into once we get deeper into the episode. But there is a lot
and
about
like
this.
I think it's really good because it does show that Elena having some of those flaws that are really good, which is
Hmm.
like she wants to protect her brother, but like at the cost of his free will. I just think
Exactly.
good character flaw.
There's a lot of really interesting discussion to be had around this. And we will have it.
Hmm.
Back at the witch house, Damon is using a shovel to open the coffin. They're just I guess they're just trying to just like whack it open. I don't know what he thinks he's gonna accomplish here, honestly.
It's another one of Damon's dumb tactics. Like after having like such a good plan, recently he has to go back to his dumb ways. It's
This is his come down episode.
exactly.
The boys begin to piece together that there are 3 daggered originals and a 4th coffin because Damon says that Klaus has 6 siblings. 2 that were dead in the old world. So they mentioned. I'm just gonna point this out because it didn't make sense to me at first. I'm like, Klaus doesn't have 6 siblings. That doesn't seem right. But
Hmm.
there is the one sibling that died before they came to America. There are 2 older brothers in. I'm just gonna spoil it here. Finn and Elijah.
Hmm.
There's Klaus. Then there's Rebecca, another younger brother, as well as Henrik, who also died the in the old world.
Hmm.
So there's 6. There's 6 originals. 2 that are dead. Finn, Elijah, and Cole are all daggered and in coffins in front of them.
Hmm.
Klaus has the body of Rebecca. And so, who is this mysterious 4th coffin? It can't be another Michelson sibling. Who the fuck is it?
It's so interesting and such a good plot device.
It is. Because it's just like they're just playing. It's a little bit like they're playing hot potato with Klaus's dead siblings.
Uh-huh.
They're just like, well, he has Rebecca, so we have these 3. It's a little bit like you're playing almost like a Settlers of Catan or like a
Oh my gosh,
Risk-esque
yes.
game where it's just like, well, I have these ones, you have that one, but if I give you this one, am I going to be able to take that other one back, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I think it's also a really good framing device for the second half of the season. Cuz like the first half of the season is really focused on Michael and Klaus, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we already
Mm-hmm.
saw at the what was supposed to be the mid-season finale that Michael has died. So this
Mm-hmm.
is like a really good way to kind of bring your attention to something, because like the main overarching goal is like get rid of Klaus. He needs to get out of this town, whether it's by him leaving or him dying, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
One way or the other.
that's the main overarching goal of this season. And I think it's really interesting to see how they're trying to pull off different ways to get rid of him, and like each of them failing, but they're doing their best.
It's also interesting that they're like bringing our attention back and hyper focusing us on the other members of Klaus's family,
Mhm.
because Klaus always had them, right? Like even in, when we were going through the little Chicago trip, Klaus always had his whole family except for Michael.
Mhm.
So, and I mean Elijah obviously, but like now you're just going to be playing chess with his different family members, and I think it's very fun.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
interested to see, cuz like we have so many people at play already with the sort of like Mystic Falls gang and then the Salvatore brothers and like that whole thing. That
Mhm.
whole gang is all there and they're all somewhat aligned with the same goal, even if they have different ways of going about it. I'm interested to see if when they, undagger Klaus's family or Klaus gets his whole family back and wakes them all up, is
Mhm.
it going to be a sort of anti Scooby Gang type
Hmm.
scenario where they all generally have the same goals, but they're going about it in little different ways?
Yeah, I'm even interested in whether or not they have the same goals, Like
Also true.
them having different goals just because Klaus has daggered them for some reason.
Klaus was historically real mean to his siblings.
So like they must have done something to piss him off. What was that thing, and how will it like affect when they like become undaggered?
Mhm. Stefan and Damon are sort of talking about like, well, we're probably going to move the coffins because the hiding place has been discovered, and Damon is worrying that Stefan has gone too far. And Stefan Stefan sort of has this steadfast belief that he can beat Klaus,
Mm-hmm.
that he can sort of outsmart him. And Damon doesn't really think that he does. Damon says, or Stefan's like, well, I'm gonna call Klaus's bluff. And Damon's replies with like, well, the only way you can call a bluff is if you're not afraid to lose everything too.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so fun. They've really, I will say, they've done some interesting things with the dynamics between the brothers,
Mm-hmm. I agree.
where Damon is still pretty much the same,
Mm-hmm.
but Stefan has rotated so wildly around him that it feels completely different.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of feels like, because prior to this, obviously Stefan was like obviously the good guy, Damon's the bad guy. Now it feels like they're both kind of the worst, and it just depends on who's worse this episode.
Who's being the shitty boy today?
Yeah, it's kind of like
Do you
who's.
think they flip a coin?
Oh, most definitely. I feel like we've made this joke before.
I feel like we definitely have. Every so often, the nature of the Vampire Diaries is that we just have to remake jokes because they keep reusing plot lines.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna hate that. I'm gonna hate that so
We're in
bad.
season 3. 3!
I hate when shows just get uncreative and reuse the same plot lines and don't have the characters grow, which I assume it's gonna happen with Damon. It makes me so annoyed to like no
It's
end.
so.
For example, one show that did this really badly, and I just had to stop because I couldn't do it anymore, was Once Upon a Time.
Oh my
Like,
god, every single curse was the same fucking thing.
and like characters that I was rooting for, like Rumpelstiltskin, I was rooting for him in the beginning. I was like, he's gonna get better. Never got better. Just continued to do the same thing over and over again. Had the same dynamic with the same character over and over again. And at some point, you're just like, become creative again. You guys were creative enough to like figure this out the first time around. Think of a different character art. Think of a different character growth. Think of some different plot line that's not the same thing over and over again. It gets boring.
The fun part is I only watched season 7 of Once Upon a Time because I just wanted to watch it for lesbian Robin Hood.
Right.
Also, highly recommend it. Season 7, it's dumb, but also lesbian Robin Hood is there. So, points. And I went to go look, just like out of curiosity, at the Wikipedia for that for that show. Literally was just built in like 7 different curses, and every single one had like the same description, just a few different characters changed. I'm like, is this really like y'all? It's so fun to watch such a bad show for such a long time. Because, like, here's the thing, Jordan. You're strapped in for this.
Yeah, I am.
You and I, no matter what, we are gonna finish this fucking show. We are gonna go through every single episode of The Vampire Diaries, the originals, and Legacies in that order.
No matter how hard it hurts.
No matter how bad it is, we're gonna do that. Like, Brian is gonna be here to lead us through that. And we as people just have to accept the bad shit that is coming our way and just accept that there are going to be episodes like this that feel like a lot of things happen and a lot of things logically do happen. However, it's also garbo and feels like nothing happened.
Yeah.
You know, and we're just going to have to live with that. We have to make that peace.
Here's the thing, right? This is such a new territory for me because the way I what's the word I'm looking for? The way that I react to shows, or the way that I have like a relationship with shows, is if in the second season I feel like you're going off the deep end, even if we're in the middle of the second season and I see you going down a bad path, I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. I did it. Here's the list of shows I've done this with: Pretty Little Liars, The Bold Type, okay, what's the other show? Riverdale, okay. I've done it with all those shows where I'm just like, oh, this is not going down a good path. Y'all have given up. I'm out of here, okay? I can't do that this time around. I have to stick around, okay? I have to somehow have the bravery, the courage to go through this, okay? I have to somehow put this podcast before my own wants and needs.
I want you, Jordan. Yes. Every time you feel like you actually want to quit watching The Vampire Diaries, tell me.
Okay.
Because we're going to have to make a tally mark of that, because I am telling you, there will be quite a few. Once we get past season 4-ish, there will be quite a few.
I can't wait to come onto this podcast and be like, you guys help. This was such a bad episode. We are literally, we have to, like, when bad episodes happen, we have to make a comedy out of it. Okay? We have to, like we are being held hostage by this podcast, okay?
This podcast is standing behind me with a gun pointed at my head going, be funny.
Exactly.
I want that teeth logo, but just with a gun pointed to the back of my head. Where does it have hands? I don't know, Jordan. It just does.
Because that's like, if this wasn't a funny I don't understand people who are because there are a lot of Vampire Diaries podcasts being made right now. For some reason, people are just like, let me make a TBDU related podcast, and I'm just like, okay, y'all, go ahead, go off, I guess. But they're not funny. So how are you guys gonna get through the bad episodes? We're funny. We laugh about it. We joke about it. You know, we criticize it definitely, but like in a funny, joking way. How are those podcasts going to? I see like so many. A lot of Vampire Diaries podcasts have like stopped. They like do like a season and then just like don't.
A lot of them get to like I've seen quite a few that get to like season 4 and then they're just like done.
Exactly.
Like, I get it.
We get it, but we're gonna persevere through that via comedy, okay?
We are at Mystic Falls High, where Bonnie approaches Jeremy, expressing how hurt she was for what happened with Jeremy and Anna, but she really doesn't want him to leave town. Jeremy says that it'll be good for him until the whole Klaus thing is blown over. Bonnie makes the comment that that is the exact same thing that Elena said. You can see Jeremy's like a little confused by this, just wondering what that meant.
Bonnie's just
But
dropping hints.
she is. She's just like, actually, it's nothing. It's okay. Outside in the parking lot, Caroline pulls up looking very sad.
Oh.
And
But also,
Tyler's...
but also, Caroline looks so good.
Her makeup this episode, on
Flawless.
point.
Flawless! Look, she looks so glowy.
That's true. It's that eternal youth, man.
And then also her outfit. It's just a total vibe. I'm vibing with it.
Tyler waits for her in the parking lot to give her her birthday gift. And she basically just tries to ignore him. But she's like, how the fuck could you be involved in a plot to kill Jeremy? That's Elena's little brother.
Exactly.
And she asks him if he will do anything about his sire bond, but he is convinced that there is nothing he can do about it. And even though he wants to put her first before anyone, he can't. He just won't be able to. He gives her her birthday present and leaves.
It's very sad.
Caroline opens up the birthday present, and inside is a little charm bracelet.
It's really... It's like, it's so sad because I feel like they like just continued over the oh, we can't be together but we want to be together storyline from last season.
Mm-hmm.
And then just made it like exponentially harder for them to be together. And just like let Caroline have a good relationship for once, please. I'm begging. Please let her be happy. Please. I am on my knees at this point. Please.
No. You can't.
Oh.
It will not occur.
It will like mess up the universe somehow?
It will.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but she's never gonna be happy.
Fuck.
Actually, she will. She's gonna have a very fulfilling life.
Okay, I love that. Good for Caroline.
That is still ongoing in Legacy, so you know,
I love
good
that.
signs.
Love that for her. She's doing great.
At Klaus's mansion, Klaus is putting Rebecca to rest, in air quotes. Basically, he's just shoving her coffin in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
I love how after like losing a good portion of his family members, he's like, actually, yeah, just shove her in the basement. It's all good.
Yeah, just put her back there, I guess. Maybe make sure she's near a window. Maybe not. I don't care. And Stefan stops by to have a chat. He tells Klaus that he wants the hybrids to lose town. To lose town? Who am I? What are words, huh? I was just trying to fix my hair and I think I rattled my fucking brain because of it. Damn. Stefan appears to have a little chit-chat with Klaus. He tells him that he wants the hybrids to leave town. Klaus, however, is still steadfast in his belief that he wants his family back. They're at this sort of, you know, that thing that men do, where they're both not willing to budge.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
They don't compromise, ever.
They don't compromise. Stefan gives him the ultimatum that his hybrids will leave Mystic Falls, or he'll kill them. And Klaus says that if Stefan does that, he'll just make more. And Stefan snaps back with the fact that he'll throw Elijah into the Arctic. Good job, men. You've accomplished nothing. The hybrid Mindy shows up to, like, ask what's going on here. Stefan just, like, beheads her with a handsaw.
Just real quick.
It's super hardcore.
Yeah. It was really sad, though. I was kind of hoping... Actually, no, I wasn't hoping for Mindy, because, you know, she's a side character. She was never going to get more. But I kind of had, like, an inkling of, like... I don't know. I felt something towards her.
That something now is sadness, because her head is across the room from her body.
Right. Correct.
Caroline has decided to blow off school today because she just does not want to do it. and she comes home to find Elena, Bonnie, and Matt surprising her with a birthday party.
There's so many things to say about this.
I love it actually because we haven't seen just the Mystic Falls gang be friends in a
Yeah.
while. It feels like
Yeah.
it. And so this is just so good to be like, yeah, these are best friends. Bonnie makes a comment that like Caroline has declared this everybody's favorite day of
Uh-huh.
the year.
It's
And
very
I just
cute.
love that.
It's very
And I
cute.
love everything that occurs. They're like, come on, we're going to the falls.
It's like, oh look, they're actually friends. Ah, I love that.
It's so good. And it also just like
But also, it
warms
just
my heart.
reminds me, it like makes my mind go back to probably a time when they were like little kids, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they were all
Mm-hmm.
hanging out as little friends, as little best friends. But also it's also very hilarious that Matt's the only guy there.
I mean, Tyler is also sort of adjacent to their friend group,
Yeah,
I
but I
guess you
feel
could
like
say.
they're like the core of the friend group,
Oh yeah,
you
the
know?
core four is those three.
Yeah. Most definitely. And I'm not against it. I just think it's funny that Matt's just kind of there. Cuz like,
Matt's there because he's a feminist.
exactly. Exactly. He's like, here's the thing, he's not only is he the only guy there, but he's also the only unsupernatural like connected person there. So
It's
like,
also it's there's something fascinating to be said about the fact that Matt's the only normal one because Elena's a doppelganger, Bonnie's a witch, Caroline's a vampire now. Like there's something to be said about how sad it is that this Mystic Falls gang is eventually over time gonna fall apart because
yeah,
only one of them is gonna live forever.
is it, the question is this like a representation of like, yeah, young I'm reading way too deep into this, but I'm allowed to do that.
Do it, yes.
This is like a representation of the whole like, I don't know, childhood friendships into kind of like adult friendships, and how a lot of them kind of break apart at the seams as you get older.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this episode actually really kind of highlights it in a wonderful way
Mhm.
because Caroline says that she doesn't want a birthday party this year because she's stuck forever at the transitional year of 17.
That was such a good line.
Such a good speech.
I was like, yes, it is a filler year, and oh my gosh, thank you for not throwing this away and making this a moment. I'm so grateful for it.
And Elena says that she doesn't need a birthday. What she needs is a funeral.
Another beautiful gesture.
It is. It's a very good. This whole episode feels a lot like saying goodbye, like laying to rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of what this episode sort of is about
Yeah.
because well, yes, you always have the death imagery of the Michelson siblings in coffins, right? You
Mhm.
always have that death imagery. You have all of those vampires that are functionally gonna live forever. But you also have Caroline, who's so bubbly and full of life, and sometimes you forget that she's gonna be like that forever. You
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
It's such a good laying to rest episode. It feels, you know how at the end of last season, the false finale, where
Mhm.
they had that funeral for basically all of Elena's family.
Yeah.
This feels like a
Which
better version of that.
it definitely does. And also the whole Elena's family will definitely be brought up at the end of this episode. So like
Yeah.
it does like everything just feels like, it does feel like a better version of that. Like wholeheartedly. And I just think these are such cool concepts to be bringing up, especially in a show about vampires, because there's a lot to say about life and death, you know? Especially when you get turned into a vampire at a young age and you're just stuck like that forever. There's a lot to say, and I just think they're bringing in some really cool concepts about life and death within this episode.
And they do it. This is one of those few moments that I think they actually do that sort of symbolism and that life and death thing right.
Yeah.
Because so often it gets cheated on in this series, which I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
It's a supernatural series, but this one it feels good that they're actually honoring it.
Yeah, it like, and another thing with the Vampire Diaries is that a lot of the times the stuff that they do feels very on the nose, and like, okay, we get it, you're like drilling it into our head at this point, you know.
Mhm.
Well, this doesn't feel like that. It feels like they're kind of touching on it, and they're really going in depth about it, but not in a way that feels cheesy, you know?
In Klaus's mansion, the hybrids are burning Mindy's head. Ouch. R.I.P. Mindy. You had a good run here for 3 episodes?
I think so.
And what a good 3 episodes they were, honey. You worked it. Tyler is given a new mission by Klaus. Tyler is trying to get out of it here, but Klaus tells him to bite Caroline.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyler says, no. Tyler refuses. Klaus is like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll find another way to strike at Stefan. Fine, you can go. So, is Tyler trying to do something about the sire bond? Food for thought. At the Founders Hall, folks, we have another fundraiser here. And
not surprised.
It is the Wickery Bridge Restoration Fundraiser. Because a council meeting can't just be a council meeting.
Nope.
Which is also very funny because I'm going to spoil this here. They don't have a council meeting during this fundraiser.
Nope.
This one's just a fundraiser, I think. I think Alaric just got the wrong invite. I think it's just a fundraiser. Alaric and Damon have a good chat about Stefan's humanity, wondering if it is on or off, and Damon is worried that it's a dimmer switch, which is, I think you made that connection last episode or something like that.
Did I make that or did you do that?
I think you did, actually.
Oh.
So I remember editing it and hearing you say it first. So I think you actually made that dimmer switch.
Okay, I remember having a conversation about it, but I didn't know if I was the originator, so thank you.
You were.
Thank you.
Damon worries that Stefan is going too far and gonna get someone killed, which is a Mouska tool we're absolutely gonna use later.
Mm-hmm.
At a spooky graveyard tomb, Elena is leading the gang. They're gonna have a funeral for Caroline in this weird, spooky tomb. Good job, gang. This feels very teenager-esque.
Yeah, most definitely. Just like hanging out somewhere where you shouldn't be. Yeah.
It's just so good.
And again, I think one of the things that this episode does really well is the whole I don't know, it just feels very right. Like they're actual teenagers, you know? Because a lot of the time, I feel like in the Vampire Diary, it's hard to forget that they're teenagers, especially because they don't go to school.
Exactly.
But this feels like, I think this entire scene between the 4 of them, like all their scenes kind of feel like, oh, this is very teenager-ish.
Exactly. And so the gang starts to share eulogies about Caroline. It's very cute. I love, this is such just a good friendship episode. Hey gang, I know you've forgotten about it because it's been a bit here, but they're actually friends.
I love when shows focus in on that. Cause honestly, I need some of that sometimes, you know?
It's a nice breath of fresh air.
Especially now when I can't really see my friends. It's just really nice to see people being friends with one another and hanging out, you know? Even if it is at some weird tomb.
Hey, you know what? That's just teenagers, baby. Bonnie lights the candles on the cake, and Caroline gets to make a final birthday/funeral wish.
The shot of Caroline blowing out her candles is so pretty.
This episode was actually really well shot.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. A lot of things about this episode are very pretty. There's some stuff at the Founders Hall later that has just a very good long shot, and some of these things are it's just a very well shot episode. I
think. Cinematography, y'all.
Gang, who was the director of photography for this one? Vampire. I should have had this up. This is usually Brian's job.
It does not say.
Okay, well, whoever did it out there in the ether, you did a great job.
Great job.
I don't know who you are, but you did a very good job.
We appreciate it very much.
Hey, can we talk about... Sorry, I just went onto the Vampire Diaries wiki, the Holy Bible,
yes,
to look at this season. And Jordan, I'm about to send you a picture that was a promo for this show. Why did they look like the world's newest indie band? Look at this promo, these outfits.
Oh my gosh.
Klaus with that scarf?
I'm
What?
sorry, the scarf was a mistake.
The white suits were a mistake. Elena's dress looks like a rug that you get from IKEA. You remember a few years ago how everybody like lost their shit because of Jon Snow's big like cloak was just an IKEA rug that they dyed a little bit?
Yeah.
That's what Elena's dress looks like. Can
it
we
really
talk
does.
about this?
Oh, why? Who decided
I want to talk
on
about
this?
Stefan's shoes. They're
They're
big clunky high tops with the thing like what? Gang.
And
what?
The suit's just not right. None of them are.
This is just...
Also, what are they dressing up for? They're all in different styles.
They're all going to different parties. Like...
The stylist just like, oh, I gotta match the colors of the background and that's all. I don't have to match their styles at all.
It's just...
It's not good. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Up here, huh?
Yeah, I want to make fun of the Legacies promo shoots. Let's make fun of this one too.
Let's take a moment because they look like an indie band that previously had a very controversial name. They look like, hey, you know in future dystopian movies, how they always have like the state mandated indie band?
Yeah.
They look like the state band. They look like this government like manufactured bullshit.
They look like they belong on the Hunger Games. What is
my god. Mm-hmm.
What's the name of the people who are in charge?
They look like they're a game maker. Like, it's wild. What is going on with this picture?
Also, the what's it called? Their positioning. Like, who decided on their blocking like this?
Who decided on their blocking? But also, can we talk about, in the very back of this, the outlines of former picture frames on the wall? And how now I can't look at anything else other than those 3 picture frames that were previously on a wall. And that draws the eye in a way that you absolutely should not draw an eye in a promotional photo.
They could have done something cool with that about family, and they didn't.
And also, who photoshopped Ian's face? Because his nose is not that pointy. There's just so much to take in about this. And I don't know if I want to. You know? Like, we've spent a good minute here dunking on this photo.
It's a bad photo. I feel like if we keep this in the podcast, we have to post this photo.
Oh, I'm absolutely gonna... This is not gonna go in the podcast. This is just gonna be up on our Twitter. But, like, what is going on? Why does... Hey, Stefan's suit isn't, like, a full suit. That's just a regular pair of gray jeans.
And they decided not to button...
jacket.
Like, they decided not to tie his tie all the way up, so he kind of just looks, like, half put together. Like,
I mean, he does wear that a lot. But, like... What is going on in this photo? Why does Klaus... Why does he look like a Cuban grandfather? He shouldn't.
He looks like he's ready for the disco!
He's gonna host the world's best backyard barbecue this summer. You best come through. Is he wearing white after Labor Day? That's okay. He's immortal. He can do that. Like, what is this?
And it's not even like an off-white. It's stark white. It's stark white.
You can see the, like, line in the suit pants, too. It's so strong. And why is he standing like that?
He looks like a fashion model.
Joseph Morgan, very attractive guy, sure. What's going on here?
Also, what's up with the length of his arm? The length of the suit arm.
Yeah, that's really a badly, like, tailored suit. Y'all could have done better. There's so much I want to unpack here. There is so much.
What is this supposed to be saying about the Vampire Diaries for season, we're on season 3, right?
Yes, this is season 3.
What is this supposed to be saying about season 3? I'm confused.
What is this supposed to be saying that Klaus is the one in all white and Stefan is the one in gray? Like, hey, Klaus murders people for fun. Hey, y'all, he's not the one in white. He's not the White Knight here.
Nope.
Also, wait, why do the Salvatore brothers wear their rings on different hands?
I don't know.
Like, is Damon left-handed?
I guess. I don't know. I'm confused.
Wait, no, is Damon's right-handed? Is Stefan left-handed? What? At the Founders Hall, Alaric and Damon are looking over a sort of like scale model of the refurbishment of Wickery Bridge. Alaric's asking Damon if everything is okay with Elena. Damon deflects, saying that her problem starts with a Steph and ends with an N. He walks away here, and up comes Meredith Fell, the doctor, who is happy that Alaric is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
She reveals that she's on the Founders Council because she is a Fell, and she also reveals to him that some British guy pledged to match every dollar they make.
It was at this point that when she talked about how she's on the Founders Council, I don't know, I just always had weird vibes from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me just have weirder vibes about her.
Yeah, I do not like these vibes.
Not good at all.
I do not like these vibes. Damon confronts Klaus as Klaus is attempting to woo Carol Lockwood, and Klaus reveals that he has promised his protection to the town as long as the council stays out of his hair and his hybrids get left alone.
It's just wild to me that for 2 seasons they were like, we can't trust vampires.
We cannot trust them.
We have to kill them. We have to get rid of them. And now they're just making a deal with like the worst of them all. A hybrid nonetheless.
It's like, hey y'all, I know I was encouraging you to be a little less anti-supernatural, but not this much.
Not to the bad ones.
Not to this degree, gang.
Like, it honestly is, in my opinion, such a stupid move to be making a deal with this person you barely know.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Who is a supernatural being who you should already not trust, but also is more powerful than the supernatural beings you were just dealing with. You know? It just screams of stupidity. And, like, I get it, you're trying to protect a town, but is this the right way to do it?
Mm-hmm. And Klaus tells Damon to get Stefan under control. Because, you know, as long as his hybrids survive, Klaus and Stefan are sort of at a standpoint. They're going to be fine if they continue to be at this standstill.
Which, another thing that blows my mind, right, is Klaus is the one who told Stefan to turn off his humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And now he wants Damon to somehow gain control over Stefan. Like, as if his humanity is not turned off. And, like, as if Damon can do something about it.
It's wild. It's just, like, Damon can't even do the simple stuff.
Exactly.
And you want him to do a hard thing?
I don't think that's gonna work out for you in the long run.
Y'all. At the tomb in the graveyard, the kids are getting tipsy. Caroline reveals that she texted Tyler. Boo.
Boo.
Elena isn't happy about that, and Bonnie snaps, saying that Elena can't control everyone else's life. Get her ass, Bonnie!
Oh, she just hit it right there. Just laid it all out on the table.
And she says that Elena shouldn't have compelled Jeremy to leave and should have given him the choice because she took away Jeremy's free will. And for what, gang?
Mhm.
For what?
Mhm.
Hate it.
And
Bonnie, get her ass.
and there's like something to say about the way that Bonnie even said it, you know? Like you
Yeah.
can't control everyone else's life, which is like such a character flaw of Elena. She just wants to be like in control of everything and have like everything under control. It makes me think like maybe that stems from the fact that, well, obviously a lot of her life is not in her control because of these supernatural beings, but also her parents dying were not in her control either, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like such a good character thing to me that that's such a major flaw of hers, cuz like even if she's doing it in the best of someone else's interests, like there is a line that you cross, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that line is usually when you brainwash the person into having no free will.
Mhm.
Back at the Founders Council, Liz, Sheriff Forbes, and Damon talk about how Klaus has Carol under his thumb, and Liz tells Damon that she's not going to let Klaus hold the town hostage, but she also isn't going to let anybody in the town get hurt. And if what Stefan is doing is causing people in the town to get hurt, then he needs to get his shit together. And she also tells Damon to get Stefan under control.
Which, another thing that I have to pick with that is that, does she also not see what Klaus has been doing that is
Mm-hmm.
tormenting the town? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like just because this might like stop currently stuff from happening doesn't mean things aren't going to happen in the future with Klaus. You know what I mean? Like, he's a bad guy. He can change his mind. He can do whatever he wants. You know?
Mm-hmm. It's like I get y'all are trying to protect the town, but I don't think this ain't the move, Chief.
It's not. It just isn't.
Outside, Meredith shares a fight with a man named Brian, who is the medical examiner. RIP to Bad Brian. I don't like
Yeah.
Bad Brian here.
Let's call
Our
him
Brian is
Bad
good
Brian.
Brian.
Yeah.
This one is Bad Brian.
Let's call him Bad Brian. Let's separate the two. I don't want this Brian to be this bad Brian to make all Brians look bad, you know? Because he's kind of the
Exactly.
worst.
He is quantitatively the worst.
Uh-huh.
So Alaric intervenes, and Bad Brian is like, well, you should get to know Meredith before defending her.
The worst he says exactly is like, or not exactly, but I just remember him saying, you should get to know Meredith before you decide to become her white knight. That made me angry. And then he called her a psycho case, and that made me even more angry.
Bad Brian sucks.
He sucks so bad.
He sucks so bad.
And Bad Brian, you make all Brians around the world angry that they share a name with you.
The just Bad Brian, chill your shit out, man.
Mm-hmm.
Meredith reveals to Alaric that Bad Brian is the medical examiner, the one who covers up the vampire attacks. This shot, by the way, that they go to is so good because Alaric is like, okay, yeah, whatever, and then they sort of part and go their separate ways. And then in the background, you can see Stefan comes in, steals a knife, and heads inside.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like one long continuous shot going from foreground to background, and I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stefan has stolen a knife. Never a good thing. One of Klaus's hybrids is upstairs and going to take a little break when Stefan attacks him. Damon manages to stop him, reminding that if he kills one hybrid, Klaus can just make more, since Elena is the only thing he needs. And Damon tells Stefan that to beat the villain, he needs to be smart. But Stefan says that to beat the villain, you need to be the better villain.
Which, boom, like, I just think the two philosophies that they have going on there. I just want to point it out because I think they're just cool concepts. Like either to become a villain, to beat the villain, you either have to be smarter than them, which I believe is true. But then Stefan's like, no, you have to be a better villain than them. And like, I don't know, I just find that such an interesting way to an interesting philosophy to have that's like 100% different from my like the way that I view the world, but like at this point Stefan has his humanity turned off. So it totally makes sense that his mind would go in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's just such a villainous thing to say.
It's also, I think it's such a fun, almost little callback to when Elena was begging Damon to be the better man.
Mm-hmm.
This is Stefan saying, well, you have to be the better villain. I just love that little, just a little faint echo of what has happened before and what has transpired. It's just
It's very
like
cool.
that one.
Good line.
It's just a good line. Yeah, exactly. It's just fucking hardcore, and I love it.
Yeah, and again, I'm bringing this up. It feels like a lot of nothing happens in this episode when you're watching it, but a lot does actually happen. There is a lot to talk about. It just was like it could have been just executed way better. Like, and I don't even know how to, because I'm not saying like the scenes that happened could have been executed better because I think they were done very well. I think the fact that there were a lot of scenes that didn't do very well and just didn't have as much of an impact kind of hindered this episode a little bit.
I think a lot of this Founders Council stuff could have been shored up a little bit. This episode, they could have made it a little tighter, and I think I would have liked it better because sometimes they just stayed in this Founders Hall stuff for way too long. I'm like, yeah, I get it, y'all. I get it, gang.
Yeah.
I mean, we also, though, had the same sort of critique about the overall season of season 1, where we were like, this could have been a much stronger season if it was like 2 episodes, 3 episodes shorter.
Yeah.
I think that's also like this. This could have been a very strong episode if it was like 10 minutes shorter.
And I feel like, I don't know, I guess that's kind of the problem with one of the main problems with the Vampire Diaries is there's a lot of filler time. And like, sure, sometimes I like a good filler, you know, if it's executed well, but a lot of them aren't. So it just feels like a lot of wasted time.
Yeah, and this episode feels like good shit happens. I really like a lot of this episode, but up until now, I feel like nothing has happened.
Yeah, same.
Tyler crashes a little tomb funeral birthday party, and everyone but Caroline is hostile towards him. And Tyler's like, okay, fine. I know I'm not welcome here. Caroline, can we just talk outside for a minute? Perfect. Love that. I mean, don't love it because you know something bad is gonna happen.
You
here.
definitely know something bad's gonna happen. I was like, oh no. Like at that point, I'd come to the conclusion he's gonna bite her.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna bite her. Most definitely.
Even if he doesn't want to,
he's still
gonna do it. So, Elena asks how Matt is doing, and he's just reiterating that he just wants all of his friends to be happy, despite the life they're stuck in now. And he uses a lot of very interesting language about, like they're stuck in this. And I think it's just interesting into Matt's brain there. And Elena reveals that Bonnie's right. She shouldn't have compelled Jeremy, but she just can't lose anyone else that she loves.
Which is really sad.
Yeah.
It's just sad. And I will also say, there's another scene in this episode where Matt and Elena also have kind of a one-on-one. And like, sometimes you forget that they dated,
And like they're very good friends. Underneath it all, they're just very good friends.
Yeah. And I feel like another thing with the Vampire Diaries is because there is so much stuff going on and there's a lot of drama, they kind of have to put those friendships on the back burner a lot. So it's really nice when you get nice moments between people who are like, oh yeah, no, they've had a relationship, or oh yeah, they're like really close friends, and you kind of get it. it kind of peeks through a lot of points in this episode, especially between Matt and Elena, because like I feel like at least in the past they've had like some scenes together one on one, but I didn't really like feel anything, you know.
These scenes are nice that they have, because in such a wild episode, it's nice to have just a moment of peace
Mm-hmm.
where Elena and Matt are they're just talking. And it's
Yeah.
very nice to sort of, they're almost saying a lot of what the viewer should be internalizing almost.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're sort of acting as, like, the whole show of TVD, right, is through Elena's point of view. So it's nice to have this peek into how her mind is sort of working at this point in time,
Mm-hmm.
and how that affects the people around her. I really like their scenes this episode. They're very good.
Yeah, and also I think another interesting thing we should discuss is that like in the beginning when we started watching this, when it was like very mainly through Elena's eyes, she was not privy to this world at all. And it very much felt like you were watching it through her eyes. She was like a very human character, whereas now she's like very like much um like wrapped up in this supernatural world. You're still kind of watching it through her eyes, but like the only other person who's like not really wrapped up in this a lot is Matt. So
Hmm.
it is nice to see them have like a little conversation, because it kind of brings you back to that first season when she wasn't really into all of this. And it kind of, I don't know, it's nice to have like those human, like actual human elements in the
Hmm.
show.
Yeah, it's so good. Outside, Tyler is apologizing to Caroline for his words this morning, and he tells Caroline that Klaus can't control him, not when it comes to her. Caroline says that maybe they're just not meant to be, but Tyler refuses. He says that he loves her, and he kisses her, and as things get more heated, Tyler accidentally bites her.
Mm-hmm. Not surprising.
Not surprising. Matt and Elena go looking for Caroline, but Stefan knocks Matt out and then kidnaps Elena. Hey gang, I know we haven't had the Elena kidnap counter up here all season, but we are still keeping track. This brings her to 5 whole times she's been kidnapped in 3 seasons of TVD.
Yeah. Remember what that thing we talked about about traumatized men making
Traumatized men making other
trauma?
people traumatized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
an element of this
Mm-hmm.
show. Maybe it's showing up right now.
Maybe this is just how this is, you
Uh-huh.
know?
Yeah.
So the next part of this is straight up, like, the next sequence that Elena goes through is just traumatizing. Straight up. So Elena comes to in Stefan's car, and Stefan's driving here. Damon calls him, and Stefan reveals that he's making his next move against Klaus, preventing him from making any more hybrids. So you know things are going to go poorly for Elena here.
Yep.
At the Founders Hall, Damon reveals to Klaus that Stefan has Elena and he will use her against him. And Klaus refuses to sort of believe this threat because Stefan's love for Elena will prevent him from hurting her. And Damon says that he knows Stefan better than anyone in the world, and even he's worried. So he hands Klaus the phone and tells him to listen. We have a little interlude here where Matt brings Caroline back to her house and she begins to slowly die from the werewolf bite. Matt says he tried to get help, but nobody else is answering their phones right now. So we go to an extremely upsetting sequence of events here.
Uh-huh. Which by the way, okay, if we go back to earlier in the season, before pre like no humanity Stefan, when he was compelled by Klaus, right, to go like stab or like kill Lena if she leaves the gym. Remember that scene?
Mm-hmm.
And he tries to stop himself, and then Klaus tells him, "Okay, this is getting too much. Okay, I need you to turn off your humanity," and he forces Stefan to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like, to me that should have come back in Klaus's mind and be like, "Oh no, he's serious," because I already told him to like shut his humanity off in order to prevent his love for Elena to like stop him from doing anything that I wanted him to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like at this point, you should be very scared because he is willing to do that. You know?
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, this is not gonna go well for literally anyone.
Nope.
Elena tries to break down what Stefan's plan is as he tells her that he refuses to let Klaus make more hybrids. And he tells her that in order to do that, he's going to turn her into a vampire. He makes another call to Klaus using the same threat, and Klaus still refuses. Stefan says that he's going to drive him and Elena off Wickery Bridge. And Klaus does not believe it. Stefan, again, extremely unsafe driving from the vampires here.
Uh-huh.
He takes his hands off the wheel fully while his phone is in hand, feeds Elena his blood, and then continues to threaten Klaus. And they continue speeding up and getting closer and closer to the edge of the bridge, and Klaus begs him to stop, accepting Stefan's deal finally. Elena just gets her ass out of the car.
Wait, can we talk about before the car stops?
Uh-huh.
There's a moment. A slight moment when you think Stefan's just still gonna do it out of spite.
Yeah, there's like, it's almost, it's, you know that feeling when you go over the very top of a roller coaster?
Yeah.
And there's a moment your stomach is just gone?
Uh-huh.
It's that moment before
Yeah.
Elena can get out of the car, before the car actually stops. There's just like a moment where it's just a shot of Klaus and Elena, of Stefan's and Elena's faces, just like from the dashboard of the car, and it's still going. You're like, oh my god,
Is he gonna do it?
gonna do it?
And there's this look in his eyes. I don't know if it's revenge or if it's just pure adrenaline or I'm already like hyped up on this and I'm ready to go, but you think he's gonna do it. And like I think that also slightly registers slightly registers to Elena that she thinks he's actually still gonna do it.
And it's just horrifying.
Yeah.
So Elena, as soon as she can, yeets herself out of the car. She wonders why Stefan did what he did, and Stefan said that he only did this to get Klaus to get his hybrids to leave town, and that her fear sold it. And, you know, he says that if he knows Klaus's weaknesses, he can destroy him. And Elena wonders that, you know, if after everything, all that matters is destroying Klaus, Stefan, that's what matters.
And also, there's this like part in Elena's speech where she talks about how this is the bridge that her family, her mom and dad like flew off of and died. Okay?
Yeah. This is the bridge her family died on.
So that hurts, and it kind
Real
of
bad.
Again, bringing back this whole conversation about life and death, you know, just really, especially there's like so many elements. There's just like I think this is kind of like a tie, like a tie between all of the little concepts within this episode because you have like life and death, right? Elena might die on the same bridge her parents died on, right? But then you also had like this whole other conversation that Elena's having about like being stuck in this like this like supernatural thing, and about like how she's scared of Jeremy dying, right? This conversation she just had moments before, and she doesn't want to lose anyone, and that she's about to lose her life on the same bridge that her parents did.
She was about to die on the same bridge that her innocence died on.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a
it's
the
implications.
Very
it's very good.
The implications.
And like the way that Nina like delivers in the scene about it,
oh
like
my
you
god,
can feel
Nina's
it. You can
so
feel
good.
It. Like, oh my gosh. Like you're just
Nina
like, oh my
Dobrev,
gosh.
you're so powerful.
You're such a good actress. We love you.
Stefan says that destroying Klaus is all he has left. And Elena's like, no, you still have me. But he lost her the minute he left town with Klaus.
Oh, that hurts.
Elena And it's like, are you trying to make me hate you? Like, is that what you're trying to do here? And he says that he doesn't care what Elena thinks about him anymore.
Which is a
And then he
lie.
just
Which is a
gets
lie.
back in the car and leaves.
Which is a total lie. Can we, let's just say it straight up. That's a lie. That's not true.
There's just so much. This scene just hurts.
It hurts in different ways.
So fucking bad.
It hurts really badly, but also in different ways. And that's what makes it so powerful. Such a good scene. Just like...
Also, we have to read this note from Brian, is that he did sob during this scene.
Oh.
And loved it. And he also calls that it's one of the best Selena scenes and absolutely the most heartbreaking. And he's correct, Brian. Hey, good Brian, you're correct.
Yeah. I mean,
I know you don't listen to these episodes, but you are correct.
I haven't seen the rest of the show, obviously, but definitely
you would be hard pressed to beat this.
Yeah,
like straight up.
It feels like it's very painful. You know, it's similar. I don't even think it's similar to pain of the whole scene that they had last season where Elena was going to be taken away by Klaus. And they had their little like goodbye scene, or even the scene in the beginning of the season where they're talking on the phone and Stefan's quiet and Elena's just talking, you know? Like those are different types of pain, you know? But they're all very good scenes.
This one hurts in like 3 different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
it's multiple levels of hurt versus like the other two. They're like they hurt, but like only in that one dimensional way. Very good scene. Top tier.
This one is 3D chess, but just 3D pain.
Exactly.
So, God, the come down of this episode, like from here on out, wild. But also necessary. It feels very healing. At the Forbes household, Klaus shows up and says that he's here to help Caroline. And he asks Liz to invite him in. And Liz is like, no. I know what the game is. What do you want? All he asks for is her support. So Klaus enters Caroline's room, and Caroline wonders if Klaus is here to kill her. And he apologizes, saying that it was nothing personal and she was just collateral. And he knows that it is her birthday, and he says that he loves birthdays. Which is weird because he's like 1,000 years old. But he says that now that you're a vampire, you just need to adjust your perception of time. Celebrate that you are free from human conventions. And this scene is actually really good. Like, I had completely forgotten about this scene until this, but like the next part of the scene is also very good. He says that he could let her die if that's what she wants. And, you know, he reveals that he's thought about it once or twice as well. But there is a whole world out there for her to see, and you can have all of it.
Not gonna lie, the scene kind of was like, oh, am I about to have an existential crisis because of this scene?
Yes, the answer is yes. She says that she doesn't want to die, and he feeds her his blood and wishes her a happy birthday. So, this scene is actually, like, Joseph Morgan, very good.
Yeah, I agree.
I know we say this a lot, but Joseph Morgan? Wow, man.
Good job.
This is a good fucking scene. Spoiler alert if you've never seen TVD before, but people end up shipping these two a lot. I don't personally like it. I don't really see it that much, but this scene, I'm like, okay, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I see it in this scene. Did the scene make me a little uncomfortable?
Yes. Yes. He is a 1,000-year-old man trying to stop a 17-year-old girl from dying.
Yeah.
Sorry, she's 18 now, but you know what I mean.
Just kind of uncomfortable. Was it like a good scene? Yes. But also, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this.
The amount of acting Joseph Morgan can just do with his face and his body posture is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Ian Somerhalder and his three faces could never.
Let's just bring it up one more time. How a huge portion of this cast can act their asses off,
Yeah.
and then we have Ian just there, brick wall.
It's just wild.
Like, who casted him? I want to know.
I think Julie Plec has talked about it too at length, which is so funny.
About
She
his
loves
acting?
Ian.
About his
Yeah, she
acting?
loves Ian. Yeah, she loves him.
Oh, that makes sense. He got favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense.
So Damon has driven Elena back to the Gilbert household, and she says that, she'll survive, and Stefan managed to save the day from Klaus. And Elena's mad at that because, like, she should be, right? Damon should not be praising Stefan in this moment.
Exactly.
I know that it was a good play. I get that it was the good thing to do here. Don't tell her that right now.
Yeah. Especially when she just had a near-death experience.
Exactly. And basically, he's asking her once again, if she's going to be okay, and she says that she can't he can't kiss her again, and it's not the right time. It's also correct, Damon, not the right time to say that Stefan did do a good today.
Yeah.
Give her an hour at least.
Exactly.
The next morning, Elena is saying goodbye to Jeremy. And Bonnie shows up and says goodbye to him as well. And with that, Jeremy leaves Mystic Falls for a while.
Bye, Jeremy.
I don't actually know how long it is until Stephen R. McQueen comes back, but it's a bit. It's going to be a bit without Jeremy here.
Also, I love his name.
Stephen R. McQueen.
Yeah, it sounds
What a
so
name.
like it sounds very rich and pretentious.
Yeah.
But I love that about it.
But he's just good old Jeremy Gilbert.
He like looks like such a like a little goofball that is like that
Mhm.
can't be his name, but it is his name.
Exactly. The only thing that would be better if it was like if he was a junior or like the third.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that would elevate it.
Exactly. So in the Forbes household, Caroline wakes up. By the way, I don't know if you noticed this. She just has a little bear that she sleeps with. She had a little teddy bear, and I thought that was very cute.
It's very good for character building. Thank you for that.
Exactly. And so she finds another birthday present on her side table. She opens it, and it is from Klaus, and it is a beautiful bracelet.
Also made me feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Does it make you feel better that Klaus also, in the future, gives her a very dramatic pencil portrait of a horse?
It makes me feel confused.
Okay. As you should. Anyway. At Wickery Bridge, Elena is just standing on the bridge, and Matt comes up to her. And she tells him that she's been thinking about, what he said, that she is stuck. And she feels like she's holding on to the girl that was supposed to die with her parents on this bridge. I did not say that correctly, huh?
Mm-mm.
On this bridge. The girl that was supposed to die on this bridge. I know how to say words, I promise. That girl wanted a normal life and didn't fall in love with vampires. And Matt tells her that it's okay to let go. Elena feels like she's disappointed her parents, which, just a big millennial mood.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt tells her that she's doing a lot better than she thinks. And he picks up some flowers and gives a eulogy for the old Elena.
Feels very fitting.
They scatter the flowers at the bottom of Wickery Bridge, and it goes through, and it sort of just flows under the bridge, and thus the old Elena Gilbert is put to rest at last.
It feels there's so many emotions I have towards this moment. It's like very good moment.
It's
Between
such
Matt
a
and
good
Elena.
moment. It's
And
very good that moving forward, we have gotten sort of the closures of one chapter of two of these main characters, right? You've gotten the closure of, Caroline Forbes is now dead. She is a new person, born again. And then you have the same for Elena, that old Elena is dead and she is now moving forward a new person. I just really like that closure and very much giving them, as heavy handed as it may be to just give them eulogies, it works.
it definitely works. And I think that there's something to be said about getting older. And like they're now both of them are now 18. So now they're legally adults.
Mm-hmm.
Um and there is something that is changing about that. Like when I look back at my 18-year-old self, I didn't know what I was doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I still felt like I was like a child, but like you are very much in a transitional moment still.
Mm-hmm.
Um and Caroline said earlier about how like she got trapped in this filler year, which is kind of like a transition to an adult. Um and I very much think there's something to be said about that and about them trying to close that chapter of themselves and trying to move on into like this new adulthood, how even though it might be like a little bit scary, especially more scary for them because they're like dealing with supernatural creatures and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
there's something I think very beautiful about that.
Mm-hmm. And I also just the imagery of those flowers flowing
Mm-hmm.
under the bridge.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
So we go to last few things for this episode. We go to the Mystic Grill where Alaric is day drinking, and Meredith shows up and chats and playfully flirts with him.
Bless you.
It literally made me sneeze. It was such a weird moment. We're gonna have to deal with this a lot next episode, so we're just gonna skip over it for now.
Also, we haven't said it this episode.
Fuck Matt Davis.
Fuck Matt Davis.
Fuck Matt Davis.
So listen, we get it. We're not saying it the first time we see him, but we eventually get there by the end of the episode.
We get there. Sometimes you just need to take a moment, really sit in how such a awful, shitty person has been on such a good TV show for such a long time and go, fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck him.
Because fuck Matt Davis. I love the concept that Julie Plec might somehow one day listen to this podcast. And obviously Matt Davis is a favorite of hers. He's been on here forever. But she's gonna come and listen one day, and then we're gonna get to a part where Alaric comes in, and she's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait how much they love Alaric," and then we go, "Love Alaric the character, fuck Matt Davis the dude," and she'll just like exit out of the podcast sadly, and then
she won't take any of her she won't take any of her criticism, like actual criticism, like to heart. She'll just be like, "Oh, they don't like Matt. I guess I gotta not like this podcast anymore. Goodbye."
But also, Julie shouldn't be taking her criticism to heart anyway. Obviously, she's been doing all right.
Yeah,
like I get it. I don't hate Julie. I don't want to criticize her that much. But some of this shit's bonkers, honey. And you have to realize some of this shit is off the wall.
Especially in the climate that we're living in right now. Julie.
And Matt Davis is still on this show?
Julie.
Hey, Julie? Hey, Julie?
You can't get... I refuse to let you get away with this for a moment longer. I refuse! You shouldn't have been
getting away with it for a while. Like,
you had all of 2010. You can't... I'm not bringing this into 2020. Do what you need to do, hun. I don't care if you like the guy. He's a sucky person.
He should lose his job for the things he has said and done. Last scene in this episode, such a good little tasty morsel we're gonna get for later, is Damon and Liz show up to a crime scene in the woods.
It feels like the beginning of a crime show as well.
I know, I love it. Damon and Liz oftentimes are playing this weird buddy cop thing that I kind of like, actually. Yeah. It's fun.
Yes.
Bad Brian, the medical examiner, has been staked in the heart.
Oh.
The thing is, he wasn't a vampire. This is just a very symbolic murder.
Yeah. And the fact that I didn't think about this until like recently, like when we brought up the fact again that he signs away all of the cases that are like seen as like a vampire death, he like says it's like
Mm-hmm.
animal attack.
Mm-hmm.
So much to be said. Wow.
But also, like, the other thing here that's so fascinating to me is, like, he had that confrontation with Meredith and called her
Hmm.
a psycho.
Yeah. So
Did
like,
she just kill him in the woods?
yeah,
But also, like, with a stake, that seems the only people we've seen very, like, willingly, like, wield stakes are obviously vampires, but also Alaric
that's
has
what I
been
was
wielding
also
stakes.
thinking. So it's like, did Meredith kill this guy? Did Alaric kill this guy because of how he acted towards Meredith? What is going on?
It's wild. And it's a tasty little morsel to leave us with at the end of this episode.
And thank God they're bringing back the cliffhangers for the end of the episode because I needed this.
I know, same.
Ugh, with the way that the last one ended. Thank you.
I know, I needed a good cliffhanger and they gave it to me.
Thank you.
So, hey, Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
how are you ranking episode 311, Our Town?
So here's the thing, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As like an episode watching experience, like very meh.
Mm-hmm.
But even as I was watching the episode, there was like a lot of cool lines that were said or a lot of cool character things that were happening. Where it's like over like the concepts are cool, the execution poorly done. And it is not even the execution of those specific scenes, because I feel like the specific scenes that I enjoyed, execution done wonderfully. It was just the episode as a whole just kind of felt meh, you know? So it's definitely not low enough, like because of all the cool concepts, and like I feel like this is a really good like discussion episode, which is what I was gonna, which was what I was saying at the start. I feel like this episode will
Mm-hmm.
be really fun to discuss and to go into depth about.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I won't rate it as low as a 7, just because I do love a good episode where I could talk about concepts and just discuss things with people and have interesting conversations, you know? It's a good
Mm-hmm.
episode where what is it called? The water cooler. It's like a good water cooler episode. Like I would discuss this with like a coworker at the water cooler, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm your coworker. This is our water cooler.
Exactly. Um
We
so
should really desperately be going back to work. We've been talking about this episode for far too long. Our boss is going to be so mad at me, except our boss is also me, so I'm not mad I'm allowing this water cooler to go on for too long.
but I think that so yeah, definitely not low. Because of that, it gets a higher rating than like a measly 7 for a Met episode, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think I'd go an 8. Because
You're going at an 8.
even though it felt very meh as an episode, like the things that they did well were done really well, and I really enjoy them. So I'll give it an 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like talking about it with you.
Yeah. It's a good episode to talk about. Before I give my rating, Brian has given his episode rating here. It is a 9.5.
Ooh, that's
And
very
allow
high.
me to read the exact thoughts that he had here.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Should I do my best Brian impression?"
Sure, I love that.
Okay.
Do it.
That would be mean. I won't do it. Allow me to just say. All right. This episode has everything. Angst, drama, stalemates. The Selena scene really sold me. Nina and Paul killed it. On behalf of all Brians, we do not claim medical examiner bad Brian.
Exactly. Correct. Okay.
True facts. So he gave that a 9.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with you though. I'm gonna give this episode an 8. Conceptually, fascinating episode.
Mm-hmm.
However, the only super cool thing is that the only thing that I felt like really had some oomph here is the Wickery Bridge scene with Elena and Stefan, and then the scene at Caroline's with Klaus.
I was gonna
And
say the
Caroline.
same thing.
And those both happen in like the last 15 minutes of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is a television hour. This is 40 minutes long. 43, 44 minutes usually. And the coolest things happened in the last the last 15 minutes, y'all.
Yeah. Like,
come on.
Like, you guys got to do better than that. You guys got to do better.
You have to do better. Who is our MVP for this episode? Because I know my vote. My vote is Elena.
I was gonna say Elena.
Brian's vote is also Elena.
I was gonna say Elena. She deserves it.
I think it's just Elena. She
Like,
has gone through so much this episode. Her
yeah,
trauma was so good. The
and
other
like,
MVP would have been Caroline, but I
yeah,
think Elena just got
she,
uh
just like that last scene with Stefan really like placed her above, you know?
exactly.
And not only that, she like had the cool like little end scene with Matt too, and like
Exactly.
the whole like friend dynamic and the whole like little tension with Bonnie too. It's just like good
Uh-huh.
points for Elena all around, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And like we get it,
It's
it's Caroline's birthday, but sorry, Caroline, you don't get MVP.
Caroline, you were so close to being the MVP this episode, but I feel like Elena just had more range.
Yeah,
Honestly, like
yeah,
the range,
the range, yeah.
So that's all for this week on Afterbite. Follow us on Twitter at AfterbitePod. Also, we are on Anchor at anchor.fm/Afterbite. Send us a voice message if you want to tell us that, Elena didn't have the range and that Caroline should have been the MVP. You would probably make some good points and might be partially correct, but
Yeah.
we'll play it on an episode. Join us next week for episode 312, The Ties That Bind. Actually, a good episode title, I feel. I'm excited for this ep.
Yeah,
Because
even
The
though
Ties That Bind is a good title.
even though it uses the, again, not a vague the, you know? Like it's very interesting, intriguing. I want to know more. And that's when you use the correctly.
Exactly. So join us next week. We're here every week, y'all. Until then, stay inside, stay safe, wash your fucking hands.
Also, defund the police as a first step to abolishing police.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So now this is the part of the episode